Guys, today we're working on a 2013 F-150 and we'll be changing the left front outer tie rod end. Now this procedure is the same for both left and right. First thing we're going to do, remove the wheel. So we got some 21mm wheel nuts, 6 in this case. Some models come with 7. We're going to take these off and get the wheel off. All right, you can see all that play. Obviously this thing is drier than sand, has never been greased, so that's no good. But we've got a cotter pin down here that needs to come out so that we can put a socket on here and take the nut off. Before I do this though, I want to deal with this. So we've got one nut that's here, it's called the jam nut. We need to loosen that off, and then once this is loosened off, we can remove this nut to take this out. And then the whole tie rod end is just going to spin out. Now, the problem with these is you can see the threads from the inner tie rod end stick out the end. And it's a absolutely atrocious design, in my opinion, because if you live in a rusty area, the rust not only builds up on the end of the threads, but it works its way in to the inner portions of this, and it gets all seized on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my drill with a wire wheel. I'm going to clean these threads up the best that I can, and then I'm probably going to have to get the torch out and heat this. Now, if you're just doing this at home, get yourself, if you don't have a torch, get yourself a bunch of penetrating oil and a couple good wire wheels and a drill and a bunch of charged up batteries, and literally clean these threads the best that you can, because the cleaner they are, the better chance you're going to have of this thing coming apart easier. So let me get to cleaning this. All right, so we're going to attempt to move this. And as I suspected, it's seized. Somebody's replaced this before. It's got a move joint. Let me know in the comments if the original tie rod end in your truck has a grease fitting on it. So in this case, we're changing this anyways, right? Oh, we got some movement. If your cotter pin won't come out, it's not a big deal. What you're gonna do is I usually break the ends of the cotter pin off, and then I just take the socket and I hammer it on there, and it'll go on. Then you just use an impact gun or a ratchet and you take the nut off. We don't have to worry about drilling that out to reuse it because it's part of the tie rod end and we're changing it anyways. I should just hammer a socket on there and say screw it. Sweet. Okay, now looks like that's going to be a 21mm socket for this nut. Now, I'm not too sure if that's the factory size. Looks like the original nut that came on there has actually got a nylon insert, and it's not a castle nut style like that. So if you have the factory nut, it probably doesn't even have a cotter pin in it now that I think about it. Bet you it's a 21 though. So, now you know. All right, now that we got that off, I'm gonna do this first. So I'm gonna grab a wrench and the torches, because I know I'm gonna need the torches. And we're gonna break this free. We're gonna see if, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna heat it up first and then we're gonna break it free. Side note, you're never supposed to heat the steering or suspension components. So do as I say, not as I do. Don't use torches. We gotta go hotter. Okay, now I'm just gonna leave that nut right there. We've moved it. It's backed off, and by leaving it there, hopefully we'll compare the two tie rod ends, but hopefully they're pretty much the same length so that the toe stays close enough to where it is now, so that when I send it out to go get aligned, it's not driving across the city with the toe out of whack. All right. Nice. Okay, so it's super rusted in there as I suspected. Now another thing you could do if yours are this bad is, like, if you had to, you could take a cutoff disc and like slice along here and then make a slice along the bottom and literally separate the tie rod end right off of the inner tie rod threaded shaft. I don't really recommend doing that because you may damage the threads, but I mean, it's an option. I'm just gonna have to keep heating this thing up. I might try to spray some penetrating oil on it too, just to see if that'll creep in there. And hopefully we can get this thing to move. Oh, it's starting to go. Go back the other way. Yep. Once we get it to break free like that, then we gotta work it back and forth and soak it in oil. Let the oil work its way into the threads. But getting that to initially break free is the main goal there. And boy oh boy, this is a level 10 for like seized. So if you guys have one that's rusty like this at home, might be worth it just to pay a shop to do it. Or if you're up for the challenge, I don't know how you're doing it without heat, but good luck. That's all I gotta say. Good luck. We're just gonna keep at her here. I gotta switch out my tool here. Something a little less aggressive. Yeah. Also, if you're using heat too, if you do decide like, I'm using heat, I don't care. Just be careful, like your boots right here too, right? So it's rubber. We're making progress. We just gotta keep doing this until we win. We're gonna now cut this outer tie rod end. I could keep heating it and trying that, but yeah, it's just gonna fight the whole way out. So we're gonna try cutting it so you can see what that looks like. All right, now I'm just gonna use an air hammer to try to break this off. Whoops, air hammer broke off. We broke the air hammer. That's it, I quit. All right. And then all I gotta do now is just get this out of here. It's gonna be hotter than ghost peppers or whatever. Okay, so that just fell right out of there. You can see that damaged thread that's in the center. That's what was causing us grief the whole time. So why does it do that? Rust. Rust does that. Rust gets in there and then it just messes up the threads because the threads can't work with the threads and the rust gets in there, and then that's what we do. So that was actually not too bad as long as you don't cut too deep. Now, hopefully, yeah, if you're gonna try to do this, yeah, I don't know. I probably...
The precision you did, like look at the cut. It's right before the threads.
Yeah.
So that was great eyeballing.
Yep.
You didn't hit the...
Yeah, we didn't actually hit the threads. I did go into the nut, I had to do that. I could have just like backed the nut out further, but you can see how badly rusted those threads are. So once again, it's gonna fight you the whole way back, and then you might as well just change the nut. So in this case, this inner tie rod's so damaged now from me trying to get it out without doing this cutting method and heating it up and all that, it's gonna go changed. So, but we're gonna finish out the video and I'm gonna see if I can stick the new tie rod on and tie rod end on there so I can give you torque specs and show you what to do. All right, we're just gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it right here. I don't like to hit it here because what'll happen is you'll end up mushrooming the end of this and then it won't go through the hole and it'll get stuck. Then you'll have to chop it off and it's just a whole thing. So if you hit it right here, then it shocks the steel and the shocking just relieves that tension, and it's just a tapered fit, so it should just pop right out. Okay. And that's pretty hot. So now that that's out, I like to just wipe this off and make sure that's all clean, wipe any dirt out from that tapered hole. And I'm just gonna, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to just run a tap over this because for demonstration purposes, I want this to be all clean when we go put the new part up. All right, we cleaned that section of thread up. That was all mucked right there, so this new one should just thread right on. All right, guys, so this die right here, it's M16 by 1.5 thread pitch. So that's for this and also the threaded rod. So you'd put a tap in here, and this is called a die, and it goes on that over there, the inner tie rod end. In case your threads were ever messed up and you needed to buy a tap or a die for cheap on AliExpress. That's what... No, I'm just kidding. All right. See, that's how the original nut should look like. It's got a nylon ring in there that bites onto the threads to act as like a thread lock. Take that plastic off, by the way. And that just goes into the hole like that. Let me start that. Now these nuts, Ford says they're a one-time use only, because once you put them on and torque them down, the nylon distorts, and then when you take it off, the nylon doesn't work like that anymore, so you gotta replace it. All right, guys, so this jam nut here, when you go to tighten it down, sorry, let me start with this first. We're gonna tighten this one first. It gets tightened down to 86 foot-pounds. And then once that's torqued down, we'll go ahead and do our jam nut. And the jam nut should be torqued to 76 foot-pounds. So once those are all torqued, then we can go ahead and put our wheel back on tighten the wheel bolts, or sorry, the wheel nuts down to 150 foot-pounds on this truck in a 6-star pattern. And if you got the 7-lug option, then it would be in a 7-star pattern. So retorque your wheel nuts after 100 miles of driving, 100 kilometers of driving, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully, I know this video is gonna be long, but we got all the worst case scenarios for you to watch, and hopefully there's a solution in this video for you to help you change your tie rod ends. I really hope they're not as rusty as this. It's supposed to just be take this nut off, knock this out, loosen jam nut, everything comes apart, you put it back together and torque it down, you're good to go.
The book time's 54 minutes, so.
The book time's 54 minutes, and it took us 3 hours. So good luck, thanks for watching, subscribe. You got any comments, throw them in the comment section below. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.